Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for returning promptly. We are at 10 to 3, and it is the aforepromised playback from our Volunteers Assemble Challenge. So for those of you who didn't see the briefing, we briefed in 3 teams of volunteers to get involved in a challenge that was set by 3 separate third sector organizations. And these 3 teams have been working behind the scenes to find solutions to the challenges that were set. So we had 3 teams. One team from Digital, so Gordon and his team. We had team 2, which was Aegon. So Matt and David are here representing Aegon. And then we had team 3, which is the Scottish Tech Army team, Colin and Dougie. So welcome to you all. Thanks for coming back, and thanks for taking on the challenge. So a bit of an open question. I'll come around each of you, just a quick summary from each of you in terms of how you found the challenge. So we'll come to you first, David. You're next to me on the screen, so I'm going to come to you first, David and Dougie. Sorry, not David and Dougie. It's David and Matt, isn't it? So how did you guys find the challenge?
Yeah, it was interesting.
It's interesting having to do this in such a short space of time and kind of focus your minds on something towards the end. I think we found that quite difficult, but yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah, it was lots of good ideas, but it was trying to narrow it down to what Gethin actually wanted and what was the sort of priority for him.
Yeah,
in terms of a solution.
And for you, Gethin's challenge was the Go Wild challenge, right?
Yeah, it was the interactive nature trail. Yeah.
Fantastic. We're really looking forward to hearing what you've come up with. How many people did you have working on it?
I think it was 6 of us. Was that
6 or 7? I think. Yeah.
Brilliant. And you're all still talking, and you're still friends and stuff. That's
absolutely.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks very much. We'll come to you in a minute for a playback. Let's go to Gordon and Digital. You're all in the same room there. Whereabouts are you? Where are you based?
Yeah, we're just in Edinburgh at St Andrew's Square, in office today. So I felt a bit of a luxury, I guess, to, we're obviously so used to doing these things just on Zoom and, just on a Miro board, but we actually went old school today. So it was all up on the whiteboard and Post-it notes and Sharpies and all the business. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, we're back with the Post-it notes. It seems like, it's a long time since I've been in a room with Post-it notes. I tell you, I've got used to using those digital Post-it notes and Menti and all that. Oh, look at this. Hi, team. Excellent. Great to see you all. Fantastic. And you're not too far away as well. St Andrew's Square isn't too far from where we are. We're at Waverley Gate. So good session then, and you're comfortable what you've come up with, Gordon?
Well, I think so, yeah. But we were designing for a very, very different group to ourselves. So, we'll come to it in a minute, but it's for children. And we were really, really aware of not having any children in the room to help us with the design. But we've done our best.
Yeah, and a really important one. So it's the voice of the child, isn't it? So child protection. So really serious topic, and really looking forward to what you've come up with. Fantastic. Thank you, Gordon. And last but certainly not least is our Scottish Tech Army team. So Dougie and Colin. So you guys are not in the same room, it looks like. How many of you were involved?
There were 7 of us in our project.
Excellent. And how did you find the challenge?
It was good, yeah. It's funny how you can learn things under pressure, new things quickly that you think, right, I've never bothered about trying to save time just doing this, but if I click this might save me a bit of time. And that kind of that was a big eye opener, actually. It's going to help me in future as well with a lot of the tasks that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good lesson, isn't it? I think sometimes when you're working under extreme pressure, sometimes it forces out thoughts that ideas, maybe suggestions you never had before. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Colin and Dougie. You're happy with the output of what you've got?
Yeah, pretty happy. It was quite an experience to be time boxed that short. Actually meant we had to focus on something more deliverable instead of being sort of a bit of a decision paralysis. That was all kind of removed. So yeah, quite positive, really. Yeah.
Fantastic. And just a reminder, it was dress code, wasn't it, that you were?
It was dress code, yeah.
Fantastic, brilliant, good. Okay, well, we're going to go straight back into the playbacks now. We're going to go through it in team order. So the first team up will be team 1, which is Digital. So without further ado, what will happen now is it will just be the team that's presenting on the screen. And we'll look forward to you sharing your screen, and if you would like, and sharing with everybody watching what you've come up with. So it's about 6 minutes each to present back, and I think Michael in the studio will keep us on time, and if you see other people appearing back on the screen, that might be an indication that we're ready to move on. So without further ado, Gordon, I'm going to hand over to you to play back for And Digital and Voice of the Child.
Thanks very much, Graham. Hopefully everybody can see my screen coming through now. Famous question, I guess, with all these kind of remote things. So I'm going to start off the presentation, and then my colleague Scott is going to pick up with a little bit of the details. So if I can just give you a bit of insight, first of all, just into the brief. So we've been looking at child protection. In particular, we've been looking at a very specific ask around a way to make use of an in-class iPad to identify children that are at risk in a fun and engaging way, and ideally using data and AI as part of the solution. So the problem to solve, as we've kind of framed it, has been around children potentially hiding their feelings, and we need a way to be able to let them express themselves on their own terms using this iPad, with an emphasis on privacy. So it's all about kind of trying to identify people that might potentially be at risk through their behaviors, learning about the child over time, giving them a voice, and then nudging professionals potentially around where interventions might be needed. So some of the kind of principles that we had just before we look at the design work. So favoring kind of visual imagery to capture child's emotions, avoiding text, so making it kind of fun in that respect. Designed with children, for children ideally, acting as a bit of a nudge to professionals about where there might be issues, and something that kind of learns over time and doesn't necessarily overreact, but takes a kind of a long view. So just in terms of what we were doing then, we had an approach. So we spent the first part of the session looking at the problem itself. The second part, we looked at the solution, so making sure we had the problem right before we looked at the solution. As I said earlier, we went kind of old school on the whiteboard and did this as an in-person session. So what we came up with, if I can just start by zooming in. So the whole idea is that basically we want to take the idea of the theme and the keyboard and play on that. So rather than creating an app, we're talking about creating a bit of infrastructure basically on the device itself, so that the keypad and the theme becomes emotionally aware. This has the benefit that it can be used in any app that's on the iPad. So when children are using educational tools and so on, they can all become aware of the emotion of the child. The first stage in that is around picking the mood. So at the start of the day, or perhaps during periods of class time like golden time and so on, a child would be able to check in terms of how they're feeling, and have an experience that then kind of comes to life for them on the iPad around that way of feeling and way of thinking. So if they're particularly anxious or stressed in the day, or particularly happy, they can personalize the iPad as a whole using that theme for the day. So that's the first kind of step. I'm going to ask Scott now if he wants to step in and talk a little bit more about another area of this, the emotional keyboard.
Yeah, so we came up with the concept of an emotional keyboard. So based on the use of stickers, emoticons, that the child can use to express their feelings, that we feel could not be expressed alone through words. We think that's a fun and playful way that should resonate with children, and it can be customized as the children's interests change. So different keyboards for different age groups. And then next slide. So we, as highlighted by Gordon, this is kind of more a piece of infrastructure that can be used a sort of add-on to the existing keyboard that's on the iPad. So it could be used in conjunction with different applications. So here is a well-known app that schools use called SumDog. So we're showing that integrating or overlaying within that application, and the teacher would brief the child about that basically prompts would come up triggered by the keyboard while they're throughout the day using various apps, and they would select the relevant emoticon depending on how they're feeling. That would then track the child's feelings throughout the day as they use the iPad, and that would allow us to then provide a sort of emotional map of the child over a period of time.
Great, thanks, Scott. And yeah, just to kind of round out, so there's a few other things we thought about as well. So yeah, Scott was kind of saying it's all about over time. So the solution kind of learns about the child, it creates that map of them. Also gives them that voice. They can express themselves in a kind of a playful way through the day in the natural course of their school life. So it's very much embedded rather than being something that they need to go into. And that also helps the kind of privacy element. You know, we don't necessarily want everybody to know that you're having emotional issues and so on, but this gives them a way to do that in a safe space. We did realize, though, that there are a lot of issues around this in terms of security and privacy. And if this was being taken forward as an idea, we'd need to look at things like data privacy, parental opt-outs, and also the potential of having to link the child to the device and their behavior on it. And I think that's kind of all. So we'd happily take questions or we'd happily move on, whichever. Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Gordon. I think that's a fantastic solution. I'm familiar with some dog. My son uses that in school, and I think the idea of using the keyboard is fantastic. Excellent. I haven't got any further questions, but and I think based on timing, I think if we had a live audience, we'd certainly introduce live questions. But if people have got questions and they want to ask at the end, what we'll do is I will facilitate a Q&A session with the teams right at the end. So if anyone's watching this live and has got any questions, please pop them in the chat. I'll see them and I'll ask them directly to the teams. But thank you very much, Gordon and team, for playing back. A fantastic solution to a really important problem. Thanks very much indeed. So now I'm going to head over to team 2, which is Matt and David from Aegon. And you were set the challenge by the team at Go Wild. So Matt and David, over to you.
Yeah, so what it was, Go Wild Scotland were looking for to create a sort of interactive nature trail. So the idea being that there's a number of stops along the trail with near field communication tags that users of the trail could interact with the mobile phone. So they would scan the tag, and I think at the minute Gethin's got it link into a website where users can see content. They can see pictures of wildlife and videos that have been taken around the woods of badgers and foxes and deer and that kind of thing, and just find out a bit more information as they're going around the trail of the types of wildlife that's there. The problem that Gethin's got is with this, because he's wanted to kind of roll this out, or basically create a model that can be rolled out at other sites. But the problem he's got at the minute, the mobile signal and the mobile communication is not very good at the site. So the thinking was we could come up with and sort of design and build an app that users can download before they get there, use their app to interact with these tags at each of the stops along the trail. And that way they're able to play the videos and the bird song and download the pictures, because they're already on the app. There's no need for a mobile connection. There was lots of other sort of ideas that we came up with for users to interact with the nature reserve remotely. We talked about using Google Maps and Street View to upload sort of 360-degree images of the nature trail and of the reserve. So I don't know if David, you want to throw up. You've got some stuff on screen here. So this is an example of sort of the Street View images that we can have, and obviously you can move left and right, up and down, and have a sort of 360-degree view of the trail. So you can upload obviously at different points at the trail, and that's something users can interact with remotely. People that can't get to the trail or can't get to the nature reserve, they can access that from their own home. But I don't know if David, you want to just flash up the app that we looked at. We just
sure.
came up with the concept and the design of an app and how it could look. we didn't actually sort of get to a final version, but we've just come up with some ideas here for Gethin. So there's the sort of front screen, and then the scan. Obviously, when you get to each tag along the trail, you can scan, and that will open up and show you various pictures and video. The idea is as well that Gethin at Go Wild can manage the content of the app remotely. So if he wants to add pictures and videos, he can do that remotely, and it will automatically update the app. So yeah, and we talked about obviously allowing, as well as the users viewing the videos and the pictures that Gethin's uploaded, is allowing to interact with this a little bit more, take pictures which could potentially be uploaded to the Twitter page and the Facebook pages. So yeah, some sort of fun things there. So it's all about trying to get users to interact more with it and have more, build up more content that can be accessed via the web page and the Facebook pages and social media. There's talked about having a quiz attached to it as well that potentially might be appealing to children, that kind of thing. I don't know if David, you've got anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I think one of the key things we realised is Go Wild Scotland have a lot of great content they've got on the website, and they started creating this. But it was kind of to build on that and make it more engaging for users. So we wanted to give some kind of action or element that they could have to actually do something going around the trail. And that's where the kind of idea of you do the quiz or you do the photos and you kind of capture these photos. So maybe you kind of take a photo and it has a filter that has a badger on it, for example, at one of the stops, or another animal, and you take these photos, and it's almost kind of playing on the kind of idea of Pokemon Go, where you collect those images of you with the animals, and it makes it a more engaging thing for kids. They've suddenly got something, you've got something that people start showing other people. They suddenly get more people coming to trails and wanting to try this out and doing this stuff. And it also becomes an activity to do with the kids as they go around, as well as kind of educating them and looking at stuff so you can get information about the wildlife, look at what the trees are, listen to the bird noises, so you know what to listen to. And it's a really difficult situation because when you're going around the trail, the animals might not, Gethin was always saying to us that the animals might not be there, or you could tell them about the animals that were there, you can show them videos, but they might not actually be there. So it's really important to kind of show people kind of what might be there and kind of help them engage and understand what's around them. Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal. Really, really good. Thank you so much for playing that back. I can't believe what you've achieved in such a short piece of time. It's amazing. Obviously it'd be amazing if we had Gethin sitting here as part of this, seeing and hearing it live and being able to share his views, but I can only imagine he'd be blown away with that. Absolutely superb. Thank you very much indeed for sharing. Anything else that you wanted to add to the end as a final thought, or?
No, I think the key thing was to have an app that people can access while they're on the trail. So it does away with the problem of mobile connectivity because the app's there and all the images and video is already on the app. So that was the sort of key thing, I think, to sort of solve that problem. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, it seems like you've tackled that problem. I love the gamification aspect of it as well. Thinking around the Pokemon Go piece and being able to visualize exactly what's happening with the 360 imagery. So fantastic. Thank you so much for playing back, and well done for such a great achievement in a very, very short space of time. So thank you, Team Aegon. And finally, last but not least, is Team Scottish Tech Army. So Dougie and Colin, remind everybody of what your challenge was, and looking forward to seeing it.
Thanks, Graham. So we were asked by Dress Code to create a platform where teachers can upload computer science specific lesson starters, things like videos and coding lessons, interactive games, ways in which they can keep children occupied in class in the first 10 minutes. That they come in, and this is due to laptops taking time to load up, or tablets, and also there could be kids that aren't settled yet, and it's just to give the teacher a place to maybe put on a video or put something on to keep the children occupied, a segue into their lesson. So it's a web-based platform that they're looking for. So you can see here, this is a area called Figma. We met to discuss what systems we were actually going to use to create this platform. We used Mural to pull out how we were going to run the project, and decided that Figma would be the system we'd use to create the platform itself, or to begin creating it. Now, one thing to remember is, this is quite a big project. It's not something that can be done in 2 hours. It's something that will take quite a few different sprints and a lot of stakeholder involvement to actually get fully up and running. So we have to consider, what can we do now to create something meaningful and have something to show for this presentation as well. So what we did was, the first thing, hastily put together a scope. So if I can just zoom in here, you will see we put together a scope. We considered our stakeholder, what it is they're looking for, what it is they'd like to see, pulled together all the information that we have. We then looked at the websites. We looked into research into other websites that are currently used, the dress code website itself for how it looks, and the individuals that would be using it. We thought of who our personas would be. The teacher and first, second and third years would be using the app. So it's quite important to know who it is that we're actually going to be designing this this platform for. We spoke today for a good 45 minutes to an hour, talked about what we were going to do. We didn't really do much work within that time. We spoke to Tony at Dress Code, and got really into depth as to what it was that she would like to see. And we put together some drawings of how we potentially would like the platform itself to look. Very basic stuff here, just to get something to work from. So I wouldn't even call these wireframes, and but David also has produced a few that are a bit more technical in nature and can explain what would happen when you click on specific areas and the features that we could use. And we found that they were relatively similar as well, what we'd come up with separately, and decided that we would base our prototype on these drawings that we had made. And we talked about how what you'd click on, what things are important to have in the app, how individuals would interact, and all this will be done. This work that we've done here will be put together for the eventual platform that is created, but not necessarily something we could do now. We had to really think about creating the design, the wireframe, and something really basic, so we can get a sort of structure as to how the individuals would interact with the system. So one thing we considered is we would like to look into the design itself. Think about a mood board, think about how it would look. At this stage in a project, it's generally not that important. You just want to be able to create something that is a sort of workable MVP, a prototype that somebody could potentially use and say, right, this is looking good, this is what we want. You don't necessarily want to be arguing with your stakeholder at this point in time. Arguing is maybe too strong a word, but about what it will look like. But roughly, this is the dress code sort of design as it stands. It is aimed at girls, as I said, in first to third year. There's pink and purples, and it's got to be quite a vibrant design. This was part of the brief. It had to be clean, but also something fun and interesting for the children. We looked at sort of matrix style ways in which to show this, different unisex kind of design boards, and this is really what we came up with, a really sort of strong feature of using compute, what we believe looks like what computing is. So we would really base it on this design and this design here, and you can see in here you have inspiration from other websites which are generally pastel based, quite simple, and this is something we would then run past the stakeholder. So this brings me to the design. Doogie will take over from me here and explain the design aspect and what we did to actually create or the beginnings of the platform.
Yeah, so it was fairly clear from the sort of the early stages that we really had to focus on two sort of deliverables, which was the landing page itself for the teacher to select the lesson and the right kind of starter unit and something to show what would be presented to the students. So we had everybody working individually and people trying slightly different things, all working together on the same canvas to come up with different designs. And there's two different designs, although there's one common landing page. So I will just go through the page, which you can hopefully all see. So the first screen that the teacher's presented with is split by age group. So S1, S2, S3. They pick whichever age group they want, and then this will bring into another screen where they can look for, it can be split up by the type of curriculum activity they're looking for, or for the type of activity itself. We've got two separate designs, so we've got one under quiz and one under coding. So this design is it was also quite clear that the landing page and the facility the student was looking at wouldn't be enough. There needs to be something in the middle that takes you so that the teacher can pick out the right thing and have all the right, so they can see the right levels, how popular it is, and they can click through it to pick through different lessons. One of the things that was in the brief was that the teacher needs to be able to, if they skip a lesson plan, it's something they don't want to see in the future, so they need to be able to get past that. So this lesson is something that, you know, this isn't the one they want to do, so they'll click on the next lesson. Yep, this is what I want to teach today, is something to do with coding in JavaScript. So I'll start my lesson. And again, we're trying to implement things like the specific methodologies for teaching coding, like the Prim approach. So it's quite focused, and again, it's something bright and attractive to get the students engaged early as they walk into the class. This is going to be the point where the teachers kind of get things ready and the students are sort of coming in, sitting about, and everything's being generally set up. And one of the main briefing points is that a lot of the IT in schools is relatively old or slow, so there needs to be something that they can really focus on it and get their minds thinking, sort of thing. So
just to warn you, we've got one minute left. If you're okay to summarise,
yeah, I can go straight to summary.
I hate to stop you, but we have got 1 minute left.
Not a problem. So yeah, so we had two designs. I mean, the main sort of things I would take away from this, just to summarize, is that we ultimately had to have 2 pages. We developed those quite quickly. I think the time that we spent while we were discussing it, looking at the brief, is really important, but actually time boxing is something we can take away for future projects, that it really encouraged us to get something deliverable that the client can then see and then we can look for. And yeah, and that's really about all I can add in my time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, absolutely fantastic. Like the other two that have just been, you know, all three absolutely phenomenal. I'm sure all of the charities, the organizations that brief these challenges in would be absolutely blown away. Thank you so much for sharing it with us, all of you. I think if we can get everyone back on the screen, just wanted to say a collective thank you. Obviously, we are virtual, we're remote, so we can't see the audience that's watching, but just imagine everybody going wild for that, because it was fantastic. Great work, and great to hear the lessons that you've learned through going through that process as well. And I'm sure everyone's going to be blown away with it. So thank you so much for taking part. Thank you so much for all the work that's done, and hopefully you'll stay connected with each of your different stakeholders through this journey, because I think that's been the really rewarding piece from the last time, is staying connected with those charities to see how that idea is taken forward. So thank you very much indeed, everybody that took part in that. Now, for everyone watching, it is immediately over to the next part of the schedule. So if you wouldn't mind going out to the schedule, clicking on the link, we have got our closing keynotes of the day, not the closing session, the closing keynote of the day, which is Mark Littlewood's in conversation with Ali Morano from Tech for Good, JP Morgan, coming live from the East Coast of America. So we better jump on to the live stream right now, where I'm going to be introducing Mark and Ali right there. See you in a minute.